Prince Harry's acceptance of the Pat Tillman ESPY Award for service really a moment of triumph for him or toxic tragedy? Because while Harry was able to tout the successes and the great achievements of the Invictus Games, unfortunately, his personal drama will always surpass the legacy of the games at this point. Because unfortunately, Harry has put way too much effort into his court cases, trying to destroy his family, and so many other things. He is a toxic anchor on the games. And yes, he had a great speech. You could say potentially there were some issues with it too, but it was fairly good as it didn't really mention Meghan. It didn't really go into any of his family, anything like that. But that almost in a way doesn't matter because guess what? In the next week, we're going to get a documentary on the tabloids on trial and his complaining about how he was hacked 9 times, even though he doesn't seem to care that his sister-in-law was hacked over 150 times. This is the tragedy that is Harry, is that he gets in his own way constantly. And of course, no one is worse in this situation in many ways than his wife, Meghan Markle, because she is a toxic anchor, also dragging him down. And the two of them together at this event, yes, there were moments where they looked very in sync, but there was also a bit there where I'm like, she's putting a lot more effort into it than he is seeming to be. So you got to wonder if things are sort of starting to somewhat come apart behind the scenes because their life right now can be nothing but stress. And although Meghan, and I'll do a video on this, is very excited, she has a bunch of people subscribe to her email, she has yet to have a single product nor even test the market. So who knows how successful her ARO will be, but that's for a different video. But today we are going to analyze the ESPYs and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's attendance there because there's some interesting bits there because unfortunately, although Harry was able to promote the Invictus Games, I don't think the games will continue to grow as they should. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide you all compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes the drama going on behind the scenes. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely fantastic. I would love to have you back. I will be working on a lot of videos upcoming here and hopefully dropping a couple. Still working on the Crown Report, but I'm so excited to share with you guys something I have going on with Ana Lucia Diamonds, which ends at 12 midnight on Monday, Eastern Standard Time, which is that we are doing an awesome like sale thing. So it happens to be that if you purchase an Ana Lucia diamond and it is over $500, including the 20% off I give you, you will get these free, lovely pair of half-carat diamond earrings. Ana Lucia is lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. I'm wearing all their stuff here. You see, I just moved my ring. Mostly keep it here. My eternity band, but I love my eternity ring. I love my studs. They're so gorgeous. Both of them here. My tennis bracelet, my necklace, just so many things. So many great opportunities for Ana Lucia. So here is how you do it. So you need a purchase that exceeds probably about $600 because you get a 20% off discount, and including the 20% off discount, the price of the purchase must still be over that $500, including tax. So like my cross wouldn't work if you just ordered that. But if you ordered this one, the Eternity Band 7-stone one, you would get there. And so if you put in code ROYAL20, not only will you get 20% off, but again, if you spend over $500 after using the promo code and everything, you will get a free pair of half-carat stud diamonds. There's only a limited supply of these. This is a great deal. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I love stud earrings. I keep these in all the time. I should have change them out. But I keep them in all the time because even if I'm grungy and in my leggings for the day, I still have diamond earrings. And they're so classic and perfect. And I also have this cross necklace, which reminds me of something Catherine has. So if you guys are interested in that, there will be a link up above and a link down below as well. So I'd love for you guys to check that out. All right, guys. So getting into the ESPYs, I had a lot of thoughts on this, but I also I always like to try to go deeper. I don't want to just rag on everyone. I just want to show the deeper perspective here because looking at Harry's life and the Invictus Games should be his greatest triumph. It should be the thing that he can declare to everyone is the best thing ever. And he tries to do that. But at the same time, what Harry has done over the last 4 years, along with Meghan Markle, is really make a mockery of himself and really make his brand divisive and controversial, which is very much is. Mary Tillman was 100% correct on her assessment of Prince Harry. He is not a uniting figure. He is a dividing figure. We see this in just the formation of the Sussex squad themselves. They are a very, very divisive force. To like Harry and Meghan, you have to essentially also support a lot of what the Sussex squad is doing. And it's not particularly pleasant. And they mask it in charity, just as Harry and Meghan do. The Sussex squad is like, yes, we raised so much money for such and such, which is great, but that doesn't excuse some of the behavior that people participate in on the internet, because often instead of just arguing with ideas, instead they try to shame the person, which is not how you argue or win arguments. You want to actually argue logic with what is going on. Rather than that, though, they just tend to go after the person. And that has caused Harry and Meghan's brand to devolve into this very toxic miasma. People just don't want to engage with it. That's why celebrities do just kind of stay away from Harry and Meghan overall. I mean, people try to argue otherwise, but you don't see anyone coming out of the woodwork really telling us how great Harry and Meghan are, except for the people who are her friends. And this was totally exemplified in this ESPY Awards, which was very interesting because if you actually watched it, pretty much none of the honorees, pretty much none of the people who won the award were there. Except for the special awards, no one else showed up. Pretty much. I was like looking through the list and I was looking through like some report of the people, and I'm like, none of those people attended. I think it's Caitlin Glass. We have Patrick Mahomes won, a couple other people. I think the South Carolina, I think NCAA women's team did show up, but pretty much nobody, no other athlete who won an award actually attended this event. So I feel like this says a lot about what this event actually is. And when it comes to Hollywood, let's be clear as well here, because yes, there were cheers and there were maybe, I'm not even sure, some boos in the crowds. It's so hard to tell unless you're there. But the big thing about this is that the applause, the standing ovation in that crowd really doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, because Hollywood is more than willing to stand up and applaud for Woody Allen, Harvey Weinstein at one point. We also have Roman Polanski, and the scandals surrounding these men. People in Hollywood are pretty much willing to do anything for attention. And yes, these are athletes, so that's somewhat different. But I got to think, because especially none of the people who won the awards actually attended, that the only people who really attended were the people who wanted attention. And yes, there might have been games or practices or whatever, but it just also seems rather interesting that most of the people kind of sort of stayed away. And people who applaud and everything, it just, again, lacks meaning in many ways in Hollywood, because they'll applaud anything as long as it gets them ahead. There is just no sincerity in that industry, in that world. So let's begin with Serena Williams' opening remarks. So hopefully this goes through. I'll be carefully watching the time signatures here. We might go ahead, adjust the speed slightly so we can get through things quicker. I believe this begins with Serena Williams talking about Harry and Meghan here. And this is just so cringy. And this is why award shows are just not so great.
Well, actually only pretty often that I get to be in a room with actual royalty. And tonight is no exception. Prince Harry and Meghan are here. Let's give it up for them.
And there might have been one boo, but it's always so hard to tell, so we're not going to get into that. But just wanted to point out, this is such a cringy joke, and it gets worse.
But please, Harry and Meghan, try not to breathe too much tonight, because this is my night. And I don't want to be overshadowed by the accusations that you guys are taking up too much oxygen, okay?
Yeah, Serena should have amended that or something. I just think it's so incredibly lame. And what's really lame here is that royals give awards. They don't take them. And so already this event is totally and completely awkward, because this should not be what Prince Harry is doing. He should not be getting this award. He should be accepting it on behalf of Invictus. It should not have his personal name on it. That's my issue with this. Give the trophy to the Invictus Games, of course, but why is it going to Harry? And he tries to sort of thread the needle, you could say, but I think he kind of failed in some ways, because it's still his name on the award. He says, oh, this is for Invictus. But if it's going to sit on your shelf at home, Harry, it's not really Invictus. It's there to boost your ego. And this, again, is a PR stunt. This is designed to help promote the Invictus Games. And there was a long video that we won't show here that they go over the Invictus Games, which is great, because the Invictus Games, the idea is fantastic. The unfortunate thing is that it's not sustainable, and it has an incredibly toxic person as its lead. And Meghan Markle is doing absolutely no favors by making it into her personal PR show. Neither one of them do well here. And Their brand is so incredibly toxic that people beyond Hollywood, because Hollywood, again, is all about scratching each other's back, getting ahead, don't really want to associate with them. And you just got to wonder too, there were no big names there. So I'm just curious, did they stay away because of Harry and Meghan? I don't think so, but it is an interesting thing to note. And so here we have Harry's bit. Hopefully this whole thing goes through. I'm not entirely sure, guys, if it will, but we will try it here. And so this is after the whole thing explaining what the Invictus Games is. And again, the Invictus Games is good, but Prince Harry's association with it is not helping it. So let's take a watch of a little bit of this here.
Please welcome the recipient of the Pat Tillman Worker Service.
So the huge applause there was for the Invictus Games, not for Harry, for the Invictus Games. He featured somewhat prominently in some of it, but you just really want it to go to them. They should be accepting this award, not Harry. But here we go.
Service, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex.
Hold on.
Service, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex.
All right. I was nervous there for a second because I thought that she said His Royal Highness. And I was like, oh, no. He is not His Royal Highness anymore. So I want you guys to watch this because this was very, very interesting. And it seems to be that some members of the Williams family maybe aren't huge fans of Harry and Meghan, because it seems like Venus Williams, who was sat right next to them, did not stand when Harry went up. But I wanted you to pay attention to Meghan and how she's like pulling his hands to her, trying to almost keep him there, because I think, and although he looks at her briefly, I think what she wanted him to do was give her a kiss or something, or some sort of acknowledgement, and he essentially ignores her. So let's watch this. I don't think she was necessarily super happy with that. Let's actually slow it down. That would be better. Let's slow this down, guys. So there we go. So he looks at it here. So we got, so she's like desperately clinging to him, kind of. And I don't think she's particularly happy there, because I think she wanted him to do more. Should we watch it again? Just watch it again, just to see. All right. We will turn the sound off because it gets a little weird. But so he kind of acknowledges her a bit, looking back at her, but then she kind of like grasps his hands and he sort of goes up and he's kind of leaving her behind. I mean, it's kind of, but I feel like that's just so weird how she's clinging to him. And he lets go first, I think. And I just don't know if she's necessarily super happy about that. I'm sure she would prefer that he acknowledged her a bit more in that instance. But I think it goes to something greater that we'll go over here a little bit later. And you can see Venus Williams there in the corner. And the Williams family just kind of sits there. Meghan stands up. Some people stand up there. But play like that guy, just looking up above, not really clapping. It's something where you feel obligated to do it. Not necessarily that you're all into Harry getting this award. Also, got to say again, Meghan's dress is awful, but it's just, it doesn't fit her. But it's just like the applause is there, but the reaction seems somewhat muted too. It's not like super enthused or anything. But let's get back to a bit of a faster speed here, because I just wanted to do that just to see. So let's go. And the problem here is who are they applauding for? Are they really applauding for Harry, the Invictus Games, the veterans? Who are they applauding for? And again, this is somewhat comes into the trouble of this award. I think some of the problem with Harry is it feels like he's shielding himself from criticism by embracing members of the military. And that just comes across as somewhat disingenuous. And don't know for sure. I could be totally wrong. But again, it's sort of hard to tell because this is about promoting him essentially and making him look good. Yes, he talks a lot about the Invictus Games, but there's some subtle nods here that are just a little bit odd. And that is Pat Tillman's wife, who is obviously his widow because he passed away, I think, over 20 years ago now.
Whoa. Come back. You guys got to stay here for me.
Yeah, they got to stay there for him, so they shield him from criticism. They are his shield. Invictus has become his shield for the criticism, for the things he has done in his life that have resulted in negative consequences. And I just feel like that's just not what he should be doing with these soldiers, is using them. Well, come around me, because, he's so proud of them. And I kind of get that. But I also feel like he's like, come around me, shield me. Make sure nobody can say anything negative about me or Megan. Make sure. Because he's lost what made Invictus great. He lost it a long time ago. So let's keep going.
Thank you, Elizabeth, Israel, and Kirsty. Stay here. You need to be with me. I'd like to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to everyone at the Pat Tillman Foundation.
So yes, they are the ones who nominated him for this. That is on them. And obviously, Pat Tillman's widow and his mom, I don't think get along super well. So obviously, and she was not informed of this. So
led by Marie Tillman Shenton, who I'm so honored is here tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge the Tillman family, especially Mrs. Mary Tillman.
So now he goes into talking about Mary. And this is rather interesting because I think this goes somewhat, it's like he's alluding to his mother and her and just comes across as wrong.
Pat's mother. Her advocacy for Pat's legacy is deeply personal and one that I respect. The bond between a mother and son is eternal and transcends even the greatest losses.
I just think that's dumb sounding, to be quite honest. It's because it more feels like he's referencing his mother, not really Mary. He's not really even addressing Mary's concerns, which is that he's a divisive and controversial figure. He's not even addressing that. He's just going, well, the mother's love is eternal. I'm like, well, we know that. There's nothing interesting you're saying about that in particular, but you're not even addressing her issues, which were that he is a figure that divides people, and he needs to accept that. He needs to accept that, and he needs to change if he wants to change that. He can't just use the Invictus Games as a shield. He can't use it as a shield because the thing is, no matter how much this little triumph means to him, he's faced with tragedy the next day. And he's the one who decided to go ahead and do another interview about complaining about his life, which will come out in the next couple of weeks. That is all on Harry.
The truth is, I stand here not as Prince Harry Pat Tillman Award recipient, but rather a voice on behalf of the Invictus Games Foundation.
But your name's on the award, Harry. Your name is on the award. Doesn't matter. And I kind of hate that he used Prince Harry. I just kind of sort of hated that because I'm not here as Prince Harry. He should have gone, I'm not here as Harry, the founder of Invictus Games. I'm here. Maybe that's not right. But anyways, I just found that that just graded wrong. Because again, he's like throwing his royal status in everybody's face.
And the thousands of veterans and service personnel from over 20 nations who have made the Invictus Games a reality.
Yeah, because it's not him, it's them. And they should be getting that award. Not you, them.
This award belongs to them.
But your name's on it. The make sure in the Invictus Games, his name is on it. Your name is on it. So that makes that statement pointless. It makes it pointless. And especially if it sits on his mantle, it is pointless.
Not to me. That said, it is of great importance to me to highlight these allies, athletes, and their amazing families for their achievements, their spirit, and their courage.
But throughout the process of Mexit and everything, his family and his life has completely overshadowed the games. If he actually cared about promoting the athletes, the families, and everything, he would let this go, or he would change his life. Something. Even in Vancouver, the coverage was about his family. And I know it was because his father was recently diagnosed with cancer, but Harry was unable to shift things in the good direction that he should.
At every opportunity, especially on nights like this, in front of people like you. Moments like these help us reach those that need Invictus most.
Yeah, but unfortunately, again, we should be hearing more from the soldiers. Unfortunately, we hear way too much about Harry to make the games as impactful as they should be, because he's, goes on to cite the statistic and everything, and it's a good thing for him to do. But at the same time, all the focus is always on his personal drama and his life. It's not on Invictus. So how in the world are potential competitors supposed to go, oh yeah, he talked real nice, but oh yeah, next week he's doing this interview and he complains about his life again. He's looking soulfully into the camera and he's complaining about, something that happened 15 years ago. And there's another statement in this acceptance speech that just really grated on me because it's like, Harry, you're describing yourself. So let's go on.
And reduce more than 20 veterans a day taking their own lives in this country alone. For those who may not know, Invictus comes from Latin.
Yeah, so we go on a Latin lesson. Don't really care. And yes, the problem with veteran support after war, of course, is a huge issue. But the thing is, the Invictus Games only works, I think, for some. It's not going to work for everyone. And I feel like he believes it's this thing that can save everyone. It's not. There's a variety of different things. And right now, you only have 500 competitors. There's thousands, if not millions of more veterans out there, and not all of them want to compete. Not all of them find this something that they want to do. He really, I think, has this savior complex, which Megan, of course, harped on very much. But the Invictus Games also is a reflection of the savior complex that he has and that he can't let go. He cannot save everyone, number one. But number two, the Invictus Games is something that can help some people, but it's not a fix-all. Just because you competed this one time does not mean that your nightmares, your difficulties, your psychological struggles go away. It'll help for a bit. That's, I think, the danger of the Invictus Games is that it's a brief high and then you go back to the low of everyday life. How is the Invictus Games itself helping people who get this little bit of a high, but then when they go back home, things get hard again? How do they support those people? That is a huge question.
Meaning undefeated or unconquerable. Nelson Mandela credited the poem of the same name, written by the poet William Ernest Henley.
I don't really care about this lesson, Harry. I don't really think it helped his speech very much. But he had a trouble here because he can't really talk about himself much because he got massive criticism for getting the award in the first place. So he sort of has to divert. What he should have done is shared a story of a veteran. I feel like he's pitching to people rather than highlighting, because the greatest pitch of the Invictus Games, which I'm sure they shared a bit in the promo, but the greatest pitch is a great story. I don't care that you got this poem from X person, Nelson Mandela also used it, whatever. It's fine. But great marketing is about a good story. There's even actually a whole marketing philosophy, which is about having people be the hero of the story, essentially. And I remember walking through it. I thought it was a little dumb, but I understand the philosophy here. Harry should be, of course, maybe even sharing their stories. Do we even know that much about their stories? I will admit I didn't get to watch their full thing. I don't know how much they shared about what they experienced. But he should have had like one great story he could share. I think that would be the best thing rather than going, well, let me give you a Latin lesson. And yeah, because he could have said, well, Invictus means unconquerable in Latin. Let me tell you about somebody who was unconquered or somebody who conquered Everest. Great. Much better than what he's doing here.
For giving him the strength to endure nearly 30 years of imprisonment. Like that poem, the spirit of the Invictus Games transcends race, time, and borders.
Unfortunately, the Invictus Games spirit does not translate into Harry's personal life. Again, the disconnect between reality and fantasy with Harry and Meghan is always a big problem. Harry and Meghan's brand is divisive. It's toxic. He has made borders. He has made divisions. So him saying, well, it unites people and everything, but Harry's not uniting. He's not uniting within his own family. Again, the personal problems that Harry has is not fixed with the Invictus Games. And I feel like that's what his public relations is trying to do, is fix his toxic issues with his family by promoting the Invictus Games more. No, that's not the fix. The fix is to go back home, apologize, and work on mending the relationships with your family. That would do infinitely more for Harry and Meghan's public image than this. Infinitely more, because that would require something of real sacrifice. This is not sacrifice for Harry. He got to dress up in an Armani suit, get in front of a stage, and people tell him how great he is and get a standing ovation. The actual thing, the actual struggle, the actual unconquerable thing in this instance for Harry is conquering his family. Not in a bad way, but means conquering his issues with his family to have a relationship with them. But he can't do that. And so this is pointless. This is empty air because he only means it in certain instances. He doesn't mean it overall. And so that is, again, the massive problem with Harry's public image, which this is not fixing.
It is born from unity and exudes purpose.
Unity, the guy who does not talk to any of his family or any of his friends. Really? Really?
This year, we're celebrating 10 years of witnessing life-changing impact and healing through sport.
Again, why don't you share a story, Harry? You should share a story instead of citing a fact. Cite a story. Stories are so much better.
And while so much progress has been made since those
So obviously, bit of applause. Not really a surprise, but here we go.
first games, the world outside seems to be in an even more precarious state.
Gets better because it's like been so different than the first games. You mean when you had a good relationship with your family, they all came to the games and supported you, and now you don't really speak to any of them? You mean that? Yeah, because that has changed quite a bit. But he talks about something else, which has changed.
We live in an age marked by polarization and division.
Of which he and his wife are some of the worst offenders, and their fans.
Conflicts rage around the globe. Anger and resentment towards those who are different seem to pervade societies everywhere.
Yeah, like Harry and Meghan and his family. Again, unfortunately, the division between the fantasy of who Harry thinks he is and the reality is epically clear here.
Our community challenges that. Our community proves that unity is not just possible, but formidable.
But again, as I feel like he should be talking about the people who are involved in the games. I don't really care about this overall view. I want more about the games, less about Harry, more about the games.
The beauty of the Invictus Games lies in how it brings people together, no matter one's nationality, background, or personal struggles. It is a collective built from courage and mutual respect.
Of which Harry doesn't have with his family. Again, I sound like a broken record, but you see again here, the problem Harry is having is that he wants to move past this divisive and controversial label, yet he won't do the simplest thing. He wants to be the hero. He doesn't want to recognize that he has been the villain. He has been the villain. And so he needs to recognize that within the sphere of his family, he has become the villain. So he can't be the hero. He must acknowledge his fault as the villain here in this instance.
Where athletes discover time and time again the common denominator of their humanity. Having survived the crucible of armed combat and forged through the challenge to rebuild bodies and minds impacted by conflict, they form a family.
There's just something so wrong about this, because yes, you form this kind of pseudo family, but it's not a real family. I feel like Harry has so lost what a family is. He has no idea what a family is anymore. No clue what a family is. No idea. He has completely lost sight of what a family is, because he thinks the Invictus is a family. It's not, Harry. It's a friend group. It's a close-knit community, yes, but it's not a family, because a family is what you left behind.
They exemplify the very best in all of us. There is a military expression that dates back to Roman times. I'll spare you another Latin lesson.
I just find that really annoying, because again, it sounds really sanctimonious. And I haven't watched the other acceptance speeches for these more specialized awards, but I just find this very disingenuous.
But the phrase translates roughly to leave no one behind. And they hold particular significance for the US Army's Rangers.
Harry, you left a lot of people behind. You left a lot of people behind. So again, his life does not match up to what he's saying here.
And I have no doubt Pat Tillman and his comrades lived by those words.
But he definitely didn't. He definitely didn't. And that's the problem. He doesn't live up to those standards. He doesn't.
It's fitting that I end with them and make a promise on behalf of all of us at the Invictus Games Foundation. No matter the road ahead, we are here for you.
I just find this thing, I think he thinks every veteran should be part of the Invictus community. But I think somebody asked a really great question, I think it was in the comments or something, is how is Invictus helping people beyond this? That is a question. Because again, you get the high from being there. What happens when real life is just a bit hard? It's like coming back from a vacation, reality smacks you in the face again. And it's just kind of like, well, I had this little bit of high. Now I'm down to a low again, because you can't be the hero every day. Maybe you can. Maybe that's wrong. That's a wrong perception to have. You can't have crowds cheering for you every day. So again, how do the Invictus Games help people who have gone to the games and are now going home? And how are they supporting them there? Because I'm sure that is outsourced to somebody else. And I'm so sorry, Harry, but I don't think Better Up is going to be all that helpful.
We will leave no one behind. Thank you.
He left people behind. He left people behind. So, guys, that is Harry's speech. And it's not as terrible as it could have been. Didn't mention Meghan Markle. I thought there was something about bitterness or something in there, but maybe I missed that. But I'm like, "Oh, he's completely and utterly bitter. So, definitely not thing. But overall, I think the message that Harry was sending with that speech, the triumph of that is going to completely be shattered by the tragedy that here is Harry's own downward spiral within the next couple of weeks. Because he's going to do a documentary talking about, oh, how terrible the tabloids were, all these sorts of things, crafting this victim narrative when the real victims, you could say, are behind him. They're the ones who have actually suffered. He hasn't suffered. Again, there is such a disconnect with him between reality and fantasy. Harry and Meghan live in a land of illusion. And we've heard this before, that they only want to hear the positive things, never anything negative, nothing negative, just positive, just positive. But that's not really life. And so it's a bit of a disadvantage because at the end of the day, they're not really helping themselves. They're just making things kind of sort of worse. All right, guys. So we definitely need to talk about some of the pictures that we saw. So one of them is Harry and Meghan. And I noticed this the whole time. She has her hand always on his thigh. And I will say maybe that's what he wants. But it's been very clear throughout the years that it's really always Meghan grasping for Harry. She must be touching the man at all times. Heaven forbid the man walks away from her. Heaven forbid she is not touching him. And for a woman who is such a feminist and so independent and against the patriarchy, she very much feels like that is like more of a manacle of oppression on Harry than anything uplifting or PDA. I just find their PDA, as most people do, a bit excessive and a bit weird. It's weird. It's just weird. And it gets weirder. So and I hate how he does this kind of smile smirk thing because I can never tell. Is he really happy or not? I just never know. So that is one picture. And you'll notice this. She does this the whole time. Here's another picture here. Harry's clapping. What is she doing? She has her hand on his thigh. She has her hand on his thigh. Why? I don't know. I just don't know. Why can't the man sit there without you touching him? Why can't you not touch him? I don't quite understand her obsession with touching him that much because it just comes across again as a little weird, a little obsessive, a little controlling. Doesn't come across as very loving. Again, another one here. And this one's a little odd because he has his hands together and her hand is on his thigh. So remember that one time there's a very famous video of him dropping her hand after holding it and then she grabs his hand and drags it over to her lap. I just don't find this level, I just find this all very, very weird. I just find it very weird and pretty unnatural really overall because there's no reason really why her hand needs to be there the entire time unless it's to make sure he doesn't do something he's not supposed to do, sort of controlling. I don't know what part of the ceremony this is. Maybe it's them talking about him, but I do notice, and I just want to point out, he's not holding her hand. So I just wondered at this point, he's like, can we please stop doing this all the stinking time? I mean, they do it still, but now this picture is rather interesting because there is another one where he is full on smiling, but I just can't tell. I don't think he's necessarily super happy here because he was full on smiling when it was just a picture of him and Serena Williams. And then maybe it could be that Meghan kind of ran in later. And we get this, she must have the two-handed death grip on the man. And so this picture just now looks really, really awkward. It's not a natural picture because what should be happening is Harry and Serena have their arms around each other in a very natural pose and they're leaning into each other and it looks good. It looks very natural. We'll show the one with just the two of them. And then Meghan comes in and she can't do the normal thing most people do because most people in this instance, the guy would put his arm around both ladies for the picture. She can't do that. She has to hold his hand and then also hold his arm because she must have the two-handed death grip. Heaven forbid the man walks away from her. But ARO has pretty much been a wreck at this point. So, or maybe she's really wanting to make sure ARO is a success before letting him walk away or dumping him or whatever. But this whole picture is just very, very awkward because it should be more natural than it is. But because Meghan can't do the normal thing, it looks unnatural. It looks unnatural. See, I find this to be actually a very nice and natural picture. I actually do kind of like Serena's dress. I think this looks totally natural and normal. And it really, really works. But once Meghan's in there and she can't be normal, then nobody can be normal, apparently. So again, here's the other picture of them actually all smiling. Harry smiling a little bit more. You see it in his face, but Serena's wondering, and so I'm just so curious, if Serena and Harry were having this great moment, and then Megan's like, "Oh no, 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 wait, I need to get in the picture. I need to get in the picture." And then she kind of shoves herself in the picture. And this is as their kind of smiles are slowly fading away. And then the next picture, Harry's not really smiling much anymore. And again, it's just this thing where Megan can't seem to let things go. She can't seem to let things go. She can't seem to let him stand on his own. And she can't seem to do the normal thing. She's so contrived in how she needs to present him that she can't be normal. And so this looks really, really uncomfortable because his body is at an awkward angle. His suit is hanging weird because she can't be normal in this interaction. And then we get to this picture. This is Patrick Mahomes' mother and his younger half sister. And there is Megan, who again does not have the body to actually make this dress work well, and Harry, who could not look more miserable in this picture. I almost feel sorry for them because he looks like, golly, let this end. Let this end now. Are we done yet? Are we done yet? Did we get enough pictures? Can we please go home? And it didn't seem like they actually stayed for the rest of the event or much of the rest of the event because, it was all about Harry getting the award, but he couldn't even muster a smile. I mean, the guy looks miserable in this picture. He really, really, truly does. He does look pretty miserable. And I think to a certain extent he is, because he's gone from this person of triumph, you could say, to tragedy. His life is tragic. It's toxic. It's divisive. It's controversial. It's not what he thought it would be. And even moving to Hollywood has not been what he thought it would be. It's been kind of a mess. It's been tough. It's been difficult. They seem to not be able to get things together. And so it's got to be hard because it feels like a dog and pony show, that he's just there so that they can trot him out, make him happy, and then put him back to bed, essentially. And yes, the Invictus Games has had its 10 years. Yes, it's still maybe going strong, but it has a lot of issues too. Number one is they can only do it if governments pay for it. And they get corporate sponsors to pay for it. The Invictus Games itself, I think, only operates on a $2 million a year budget, and they needed $30 million from Canada to put the games on. Now, granted, the Olympics is kind of similar, but because this event is so small and it doesn't attract a lot of attention, it just seems more like a vanity project for kind of everyone involved. It's a vanity project because, they're veterans, and we can look good if we support the veterans. There seems to be a lack of actual passion in what it is. And maybe Harry knows that. Maybe he doesn't know that. Maybe he's believing this thing really could change the lives of everyone in the world. But the reality is, it probably won't. It's still great for the people who participate. If they want to participate, hey, knock yourselves out. It's absolutely fantastic. But it also is something that is not without problems, not without issues. And I think Harry, he would be a much better leader if he acknowledged them and acknowledged the role he has played in also making his brand rather toxic, because it does bleed over into the Invictus Games. And that is not good for Harry. It's not good for the Invictus Games. It's not good for the veterans. And supposedly for Harry, all he cares about are the veterans. But sometimes that's just a little bit hard to believe. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Prince Harry's acceptance of the Pat Tillman Award. I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye.